Greetings, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to this communion. And it's really nice to see everybody once again. Some of you will remember that we are in the middle of lesson 64, which we will start discussing soon. Welcome to Sapphire, our new attendee. And I'm going to utter a few words from the course that'll be like a short prayer to lead us into the rest of the session. I'll start with our well-known one, which is I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do, because he who sent me will direct me. I am content to be wherever he wishes, knowing he goes there with me. I will be healed as I let him teach me to heal. And then here's another snippet, which is lovely as well. Father, today I would but hear your voice. In deepest silence, I would come to you to hear your voice and to receive your word. I have no prayer but this. I come to you to ask you for the truth, and the truth is but your will, which I would share with you today. It's a constant sharing, it's a constant communion. That's what heaven appears to be, with the Father, the source, extending himself into his sonship, and then the sonship connecting with each other in the manner even as we now are experiencing. We are therefore eternally connected, and in a manner of speaking, just waking up now to that connection. Let's open our eyes and witness in this experience, in this world, what the sonship might look like. Okay, so I'm going to momentarily share our lesson 64. We're right in the middle of it, as I said. And we are on paragraph 4. And as I was reading through the first few paragraphs, I felt that this sentence might be a good summary for us to start. It's essentially, let me not forget my function, right? And my function here is to be the light of the world. That is, in these words, the function given to us by God. And of course, it can be shared in many different ways. And we are told through these beautiful words that don't be fearful, don't feel unworthy of this task, and do not in any way cringe when you hear these words. The Son of God is you. In fact, welcome these words. Let them find the true worth, the true innocence, the true love that we are within us. And let us therefore be the light of the world. So given that, if anyone would like to share anything, please, Johanna.
Manu, we're actually on paragraph 6. Last week we did 4 and 5.
Okay. Thank you for that correction.
That's okay.
And so in that case, the other thing that I found really amazing is the only way to happiness is through delivering on a function. Let's remember that. And then we are asked to just be mindful of that. Can such a simple decision really be difficult to make? Basically, we are being told that if we want to be naturally happy, naturally be in our function, that's the only choice we ought to make. So this is a prayer by itself. I would welcome somebody to either say a few words or maybe start reading paragraph 6 as we start to discuss this. Who would like to do that? Okay, Keith, why don't you please read as much of 6 and maybe even more if you choose.
Today, then, let us practice with these thoughts. Let me not forget my function. Let me not try to substitute mine for God's. Let me forgive and be happy. At least once devote 10 or 15 minutes today to reflecting on this with closed eyes. Related thoughts will come to help you if you remember the crucial importance of your function to you and to the world. In the frequent applications of today's idea throughout the day, devote several minutes to reviewing these thoughts and then thinking about them and about nothing else. This will be difficult at first, particularly since you are not proficient in the mind discipline that it requires. You may need to repeat, "Let me not forget my function," quite often to help you concentrate.
Yeah, maybe Keith, thank you so much. Let's pause there for a few moments. And I'll go back to paragraph 6 and ask a question. In this second sentence of this prayer, it says, "Let me not try to substitute mine for God's." And there was a reference to this quote unquote temptation earlier as well in this lesson. So any thoughts on what this is suggesting or what this means in terms of, how do we substitute the egoic function and use that as our main function instead of the one given to us by God? Ardith, and then Peter can go right after that.
If you could stop sharing, Manu, that we can see everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, Peter, why don't you go first, and then Ardith can join you right after that.
Yeah, thank you. I have two thoughts on that. In paragraph 3, he reminds us that our function is to be the light of the world. And that's a function given us by God. My ego tells me my function is to be rich, to be famous, to be in control, to be in charge. Should I stop there? The ego has a whole list of other functions that I would fulfill in this world. And so let me not substitute my function for God's. And that takes a lot of humility and or getting hit over the head with a 2x4 pretty often to get my attention, when my function is not serving the greater good. But the other thing I wanted to bring up, and I think this was what you were alluding to earlier, Manu, only the fear of the ego that induces you to regard yourself as unworthy of the task assigned to you by God. So this for me is kind of the key to my journey here, and that is this idea of unworthiness. And the unworthiness, I think, is born out of the guilt, the unconscious guilt that the Course tells us that we're carrying. So guilt says I'm bad, and not in a Michael Jackson kind of way. And bad says I must be unworthy, not good enough, don't have what it takes. And so it's undoing the unconscious guilt to accept my worthiness and therefore accept the function that God has given me. That's my work today. Thank you.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Ardith? If you were speaking earlier, you were not unmuted. There you go.
There, sorry. Yeah, well, I see. I get what what was just said, but I kind of get a lot of simplicity out of this particular paragraph because the two lines together and start with a third one. Let me forgive and be happy. See, that goes back again to the clarification of terms, which says very clearly course is concerned only with atonement or the correction of perception. The means of atonement is forgiveness. So the thing is, our substitute for God's is to be unhappy, to refuse to forgive, or block ourselves from receiving those forgiving lights. So once we open ourselves up with our little willingness, say yes, I'm on board. That will automatically happen for us. We'll find ourselves doing it more and more and more, and then we just won't forget our function. So I think follow let me forgive and be happy, know that those are linked and very important, and then anything else is just something God wants us to do. A lot easier. At least it makes it a lot easier for me.
Yes. Thank you, Ardith. That's beautiful. And since we started, there's been a few more people joining us, few more brothers and sisters, Andrew, Joanne, Megan, Marguerite, and Matthew. Welcome. All right, let's keep going here. I'm going to go back to the lesson. And actually, just before I head back there, the last few paragraphs are really about the rubber hitting the road, the practice, us reminding of ourselves what the truth is, what our function is, and then actually practicing it. So let's go back and read some of that, and then maybe we'll have a few more thoughts on that front before we move on. So as you can see, 7 was about frequent applications, and it's about mind training, mind discipline, which is the centerpiece of the course in terms of how we get back to being fully as the sons of God. And then in paragraph 8, it talks about how we might additionally practice this with our eyes closed, trying to concentrate on the thoughts that we are affirming and using. And then really reminding ourselves, this is the world, it is my function to save. And so going back to what Peter had also mentioned, we should be very comfortable with this statement. The Son of God is you, and it is our essential function to be the light of the world. And so that is how we serve the greater good, which is what you also said, Peter. Any other thoughts on this beautiful lesson? Yes, Sharon.
Okay, so I just want to be clear, because sometimes I know that there are levels. So when he says, at other times, keep your eyes open after reviewing the thoughts and then look slowly and unselectively around you, telling yourself, this is the world, it is my function to save. So is he saying, look with your physical eyes at the world around you and say to yourself, this is the world, it is my function to save? Because that's not my understanding of the course. My understanding is that it's never talking about the physical world. But sometimes he does talk about the physical world to teach us, because that's kind of where we are. So I'm not sure which world is he talking about here, that it's our function to save. Because to me, this is the only world worth saving. God's world certainly doesn't need saving. So it's a little confusing. Thank you.
Okay, we have a few responses there, Sharon, to your question. Although, Jerry, you had your hand raised earlier. Are you able to maybe talk to Sharon's question?
Yes, I think so. I mean, you don't want to save a dream. You want to perceive it differently. As a lucid dreamer who's rising on the ladder of atonement. So we're not making it real in the sense that heaven is real. We're recognizing its inherent illusory nature and really trying with the Holy Spirit, of course, to awaken by learning these lessons in this illusory world. There's nothing to fix. There's only to see clearly with the eyes of the Holy Spirit. The body's eyes, I don't think, are coming into play in this instance.
Okay, thank you so much. Megan?
I think Sharon answered her own question, which was you can't, there's no reason to save heaven. It's fine where it is. So basically we are where salvation needs to be. And that's what I get from it. Also, I go back to the let me not try to substitute mine for God's. So I don't think God needs salvation. We just need to keep remembering that we are saved. So it's in the world we are now, where we keep forgetting we're part of God, that needs salvation. Or that's my understanding. Does that help at all, Sharon?
No, I mean, thank you, but it doesn't, neither you or Reverend Jerry helped, because I still look at this, it says, at other times, keep your eyes open. So is he talking about my spiritual eyes? And look around you unselectively. Does that mean look around spiritually with my spiritual eyes?
I think it would be
Yeah.
both your spiritual eyes and your eyes, because it's telling you to look around unselectively. And at the beginning of the course, it says to detach yourself and say that everything around me has all the meaning that I give it. It has no meaning other than that meaning that I give it. So that if you look around with your physical eyes and your spiritual eyes at the same time, you keep distinguishing between what I see is not what I see. I don't think I'm helping.
No, that's fine, Megan. Thank you. Then
Okay.
let's continue to explore this. I think there's several people here who have a point of view. Peter?
Yeah, so this leads into a discussion that I wanted to raise, and that is, what does it mean to save the world? What are we actually doing or being? How do we save the world? And throughout the course, it tells us we're here to save the world. So this is my thought on it. I don't think it's defined anywhere specifically what it means to save the world. The thought that comes up for me is, I save the world by not judging it. The Course says this is a dream of judgment, and the way to leave the dream is to stop judging. And so for me, now, there actually is no world, it's in my own mind. So I'm actually saving myself from my own delusion when I stop judging what I think I see outside of me. So I think in that last paragraph, he is referring to whatever you think you see in your environment. And by not judging it, I'm not making it real, and I'm beginning to undo the illusion, or allowing the Holy Spirit to undo the illusion through me. So there is no world to save. I'm actually saving myself from the pain of living the illusion by judging it, which is the same as attacking it, which is the same as making it real and projecting the guilt outside of me. So there is nothing out there to save. I'm saving myself. It sounds odd to say it that way, from my own illusion, by withdrawing my judgment from it and allowing the Holy Spirit to write its meaning on whatever I think I see. That's the best I got on that.
That's good.
It's very good, Peter. I agree with you. Yeah, and I'll just reiterate one aspect, which is, yes, it is referring, in my view, as well to the physical world that we appear to see. And it's it's just a matter of how do we forgive that, which Peter elucidated quite well. Thank you. Maggie?
Yeah, I can be quick too, because I think Peter said it well, and I heard Sharon say, oh, good, that was good. So that it sounds like Sharon's question has been answered. The only thing I was going to point out too, I agree with Manu and what Peter was just saying. I think it's very deliberate in the workbook when he directs us to be either eyes open or eyes closed. And I think about those really early lessons when I was listening to your question, Sharon. Because I mean, there's lessons in the beginning where we are very explicitly being like, I only see the past in this pen, right? So it's very much, I think, deliberate when we're being told to do it either way. And when we're being taught to kind of do it both ways, those lessons where it's do it eyes closed, now do it eyes open, go back. I think it's helping us to recognize that that which we think is without is actually within. It's not actually different, but that's just my little thing I just wanted to add to what was already said so beautifully.
Thank you, Maggie. Andrew?
Well, I guess Sharon's question's already been answered. I was going to add, I know how to close and open my body's eyes, and what I see with my body's eyes is the illusory world. I don't know how to open and close my spirit eyes. So hope that helps. But the reason I raised my hand is actually I have a different challenge. I have trouble with the practice to, consistently do it. Like if you're told to do it every hour, I have problems with that. I used to think it was because I was at work, but I've been retired now for 6 years and I still have problems. I get involved in other things, and that's my challenge. I mean, I do my best, and I definitely feel the benefits, but to be consistent is a bit of a challenge, I find. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
It sure is. Johanna, why don't you go first? I saw your hand raised, and then Megan.
Yeah. I'm tempted to think that whatever way you practice is the right way. And you show up here every week, so you're consistent. And you've been doing this for years. And so, you've seen the lessons multiple times. So add up all those minutes and hours that you've spent on lesson 64 already. I'm sure you'll come up with together more than an hourly observance for 64. So don't worry about it. That's my
Thank you. Thank you. Megan?
So yeah, I was going to somewhat say what Johanna said, but she said it so nicely. So Andrew, I think that it's the world that tells us that this consistency or this that we have to do it hourly, like it's it's sort of like a rule. You don't have to do it the way you just have to do it. The intention seems to be there in you. So I don't think that you have to be so hard on yourself, judging yourself whether you're doing exactly the way the course says or not. I think that you are there, and I do believe, like Johanna said, is that your intention is very clear, that you're here consistently searching and seeking to do it better, and that wherever you are, that seems to be exactly where you should be. And if you're questioning, then that questioning seems to be right along with the course as well, which is that I'm questioning, I'm supposed to do this every hour? Well, I don't seem to be able to. Is that okay? Yes, it's okay. It's just fine.
Yeah, while it's okay, and we have to be soft with ourselves because we love ourselves, we are innocent, as is everybody else. At the same time, I think the call is to reach the point of mind discipline where, we are truly present. And like Peter indicated, as we see anything or anyone or any event or whatever we are experiencing, we are in a position where we are totally non-judgmental. And in fact, in a truly loving, accepting way, therefore constantly forgiving anything and everything that's happening. So we are all on that journey, and we are all going to get there. Maggie.
Yes, I agree with that too. That we are being asked to attempt to get to the point of doing the lessons the way that they are outlined for us, but of course not judging ourselves in the meantime. I just was listening and it just occurred to me, Andrew had used the term consistency, and I was just remembering from the Manual of Teachers that one of the characteristics of a teacher of God is honesty. And right in that section, Spirit defines honesty as consistency. And so the whole section, right, comes after the development of trust section, in which Jesus says that trust is the first characteristic of God, right? So we just work on that part. But then the idea with the rest of that section is that the rest of the characteristics of God just naturally unfold from the trust. So that just occurred to me to say to Andrew and to all of us, anyone that felt that same concern, I guess, it's like we are just asked to keep working on our trust and on our willingness, and the consistency or the honesty will just kind of come.
You know where it said that are you referencing a specific place where the trust, Maggie?
I'm referencing in the Manual for Teachers, the section 4, what are the characteristics of God's teachers? The first characteristic, so the subject section I is trust, and then it goes into the development of trust section right after that to basically just say that trust is the first characteristic of God. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 more after that.
You mean
Honesty,
the teacher of God.
Yes, I'm sorry. What did I say?
God.
Oh. Don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah,
but
same
yeah.
difference. Same difference.
Honesty is the second one. So honesty comes right after trust. And I'm looking at that first paragraph says, honesty does not apply only to what you say. The term actually means consistency. And so that was kind of Andrew's concern, his lack of consistency. So I was just seeing a little connection there, I guess. I don't know if that answers you, Megan.
So you're next, and please correct me. Is it Megan or Megan?
Megan.
Okay, thank you.
So I have the opposite issue than Andrew, which is I tend to go like way overboard in trying to doing stuff where I then say, put the course down, start living, start knock it off. So while I was trying to intone like let yourself off the hook, I was really telling myself, let myself off the hook, because you don't need to do it so consistently that you forget eating and being around your family and enjoying life, because part of being a teacher is to recognize that you have a part in joy in being with God and experiencing this joy of this life. So sometimes I need to tell myself, just knock off the core stuff and go enjoy people and don't keep fretting over it, because it will make itself clear. So I think that was my lesson more than addressing you, Andrew, so much. I was sort of addressing myself, which is possibly not where you are. But thanks.
Yeah, definitely be light on yourself, Megan. However, what makes us think that we cannot be practicing the course while eating or while interacting with our family? I think that's the whole point. But it has to be a seamless way where you're not repeating the lesson of the day in your mind necessarily when interacting with other humans, but it's just flowing and you're there, you're present. And so not to put pressure on you, sorry.
No, it's that I read it daily, I post to Facebook daily, and eventually it starts getting into conversations where the conversations stop being about the conversation and starts being about the course. And I'm going, okay, it's time to like let it go, because at some point you're just revolving the same issues. You're not actually practicing them, you're reiterating them, regurgitating them instead of actually living them. And I found before I was living them more, and then the more pressure I put on myself, the more I was regurgitating and trying to force it out and force it into other people. I'm going, that's not my way. I don't want to do that. So I needed to be nicer on myself and say, listen, the course will come up, the course may not. You may speak things from the course, but you don't have to literally force the course out. It's going to be fine.
Yeah, okay, got it. That's beautiful. Very true. Yes, many of us often itch to bring up the topic, but it's not even necessary. Like you said. Okay. I think this could be a segue for us to keep moving. And so this allows us to move. Let us not forget our function and the fact that we are essentially saving ourselves, which is the world as well. Okay, and if that wasn't enough, let's understand this even more deeply. So the next lesson, 65, says, my only function is the one God gave me. So if we can have a volunteer to speak. Sharon, please read as much of it as you feel guided to.
Okay. Lesson 65. My only function is the one God gave me. The idea for today reaffirms your commitment to salvation. It also reminds you that you have no function other than that. Both these thoughts are obviously necessary for a total commitment. Salvation cannot be the only purpose you hold while you still cherish others. The full acceptance of salvation as your only function necessarily entails two phases: the recognition of salvation as your function and the relinquishment of all the other goals you have invented for yourself. This is the only way in which you can take your rightful place among the saviors of the world. This is the only way in which you can say and mean, my only function is the one God gave me. This is the only way in which you can find peace of mind. Today and for a number of days to follow, set aside 10 to 15 minutes for a more sustained practice period in which you try to understand and accept what the idea for today really means. Today's idea offers you escape from all your perceived difficulties. It places the key to the door of peace, which you have closed upon yourself, in your own hands. It gives you the answer to all the searching you have done since time began. I'm really enjoying this. Can I keep going? Does anyone else want to read? Okay. Try, if possible, to undertake the daily extended practice periods at approximately the same time each day. Try also to determine this time in advance and then adhere to it as closely as possible. The purpose of this is to arrange your day so that you have set apart the time for God, as well as for all the trivial purposes and goals that you will pursue. This is part of the long-range disciplinary training your mind needs so that the Holy Spirit can use it consistently for the purpose He shares with you. For the longer practice period, begin by reviewing the idea for the day. Then close your eyes. Repeat the idea to yourself once again and watch your mind carefully to catch whatever thoughts cross it. At first, make no attempt to concentrate only on thoughts related to the idea for the day. Rather, try to uncover each thought that arises to interfere with it. Note each one as it comes to you, with as little involvement or concern as possible, dismissing each one by telling yourself, this thought reflects a goal that is preventing me from accepting my only function. After a while, interfering thoughts will become harder to find. Try, however, to continue a minute or so longer, attempting to catch a few of the idle thoughts that escaped your attention before, but do not strain or make undue effort in doing this. Then tell yourself, on this clean slate, let my true function be written for me. You need not use these exact words, but try to get the sense of being willing to have your illusions of or your illusions of purpose be replaced by truth. Finally, repeat the idea for today once more and devote the rest of the practice period to trying to focus on its importance to you. The relief its acceptance will bring you by resolving your conflicts once and for all, and the extent to which you really want salvation in spite of your own foolish ideas to the contrary. In the shorter practice periods, which should be undertaken at least once an hour, use this form in applying today's idea. My only function is the one God gave me. I want no other, and I have no other. Sometimes close your eyes as you practice this, and sometimes keep them open and look about you. It is what you see now that will be totally changed when you accept today's idea completely.
Fabulous, fabulous. Yeah, I think that turned out to be a great idea just reading through it, because essentially it's exhorting us to remember our function, still our mind, pay attention to the thoughts that might be contrary to what our function is, still our mind some more, and then not necessarily differentiate between what we see outside, quote unquote, outside us and experience inside us. Andrew?
Thank you. I love that sentence. I think it's in paragraph 7, to let your illusions of purpose be replaced by truth. Because that makes it a little easier to understand that all the purposes that we think we have in the world are illusions, and our true purpose is to function God gave us, salvation of the world. I just like that. I like that phrase. Let your illusions of purpose be replaced by truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Johanna?
We might go back to the top and then take it paragraph by paragraph. Would that be an idea?
It's your idea, which is beautiful. Let's do just that. So, Johanna, why don't you take this forward for us?
I'll read it again, and then perhaps a thought will come to me and I'll share it. And if it doesn't, somebody else might. My only function is the one God gave me. The idea for today reaffirms your commitment to salvation. It also reminds you that you have no function other than that. Both these thoughts are obviously necessary for a total commitment. Salvation cannot be the only purpose you hold while you still cherish others. The full acceptance of salvation as your only function necessarily entails two phases: the recognition of salvation as your function and the relinquishment of all the other goals you have invented for yourself. As a matter of fact, this past week, this came into focus for me personally as my dog went missing. And I had this idea in my mind that my function was to be a proper dog owner and a proper dog trainer. And of course, if I call my dog and he doesn't come, I'm a failure in both respects. But that was a role I had assigned to myself. Thankfully, the dog returned after 26 hours. So wow. I had 26 hours to do forgiveness work. And during that time, I realized that my anxiety was not due because of the dog, because, a dog in the woods, he's fine. There's rabbits and hedgehogs and perhaps a wolf here and there. I don't know. But I mean, it's a very natural picture to have a dog in the woods. And my anxiety was purely due, that's what I discovered, due to the idea that I was failing as a dog owner. And so I was not measuring up. And that brings me back to what Peter said at the beginning of the hour, the sense of unworthiness, which is just a side effect of the guilt that we carry unconsciously within. And so it was an opportunity for me to look at that again, and not to say, well, I'm not guilty, I'm a perfect dog owner, but just to look at it and see, okay, so this has come up. I feel like a failure as a dog owner. Here, Jesus, you've got this feeling. This is the situation. I'm offering the situation up. And my only function is to accept the atonement for myself. My function isn't to be the perfect dog owner. And of course, now that he's back, I act as a dog owner and I train him, but that's not my function. That's just something that seems appropriate at certain times during the day to be doing. But that's not identification. And I was identified with that role. And so the dog showed me, which so I'm very grateful. And so all's well that ends well. I just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, thank you, Johanna. I think the distinction was really very helpful, not just in terms of what you described as the feelings of guilt, etc., but what we might do in the course of a day and go about doing things versus our essential function. And that was very helpful. Thank you. Egan?
I didn't have a dog issue, but I've been having a personal challenge with medication and pain. And so with Peter saying that a lot of stuff is forgiveness through his sessions on Thursdays, I've been, this is where I get hard on myself. I'm trying to get off medication, but I'm also feeling uncomfortable when I'm not taking some of the medication, and the doctor assures me I'm not going to die, and I'm just going to feel uncomfortable. And so I told my mother I was driving, and during driving, I felt those feelings that when you're 16 and you drive a car and you get nervous. I haven't felt them in 45 years. And I started getting nervous again while I was driving, and I realized, okay, this is uncomfortable. This is not how you normally deal with things. You can take a pill, it will make the discomfort go away, and you'll go back into taking medication. However, I truly don't want to be on the medication. I don't need to be on the medication. So I think for me, I had to stop judging taking the medication or not taking the medication, feeling discomfort versus not feeling discomfort, knowing that I would be okay, and then forgiving myself for feeling like, either way, like if I took the pill or didn't take the pill, who cares? It really doesn't matter. However, it's up to me to decide, can I handle the discomfort? Do I want to handle this discomfort now? And how will I manage that? And then it's up to me to decide whether I'm going to then judge myself for whether I take a pill or don't take a pill. But it was very, very illuminating to watch myself go through this, and to also be afraid of cars, even though I have been driving forever. And anyway, so that's kind of all I needed to say, but thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Peter?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. Thank you, Megan, for your share. I just want to clarify, we were talking about magic as the Course defines it. And there was no suggestion that people stop taking medication or start taking medication or anything like that. So that's just my disclaimer for the Thursday group. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Peter, I didn't mean to. Yeah, I didn't mean that. I meant that, this is something I know I can do. It's just an amount of how would I like to do it, and because I've done it before with other medications. But yeah, please don't stop taking medication. Anybody who's watching this, if you're on medication, don't go, I'm just not going to take it because the Course in Miracles tells me it's magic and you don't need it. No, you really do need to watch what you're doing. But I know what I'm doing. I just know, do I want to be in discomfort, and is the discomfort going to hurt me? No. Is it going to just feel uncomfortable? Yes, but that's okay.
Thank you, Megan. Johanna?
What came up for me when listening to Megan, and of course the disclaimer is very much appropriate, is that I think when you do the work that the Course is asking us to do, you will find yourself perhaps forgetting to take your medication. In other words, it will happen very naturally. There's not a moment that you have to choose, do I take it or do I not take it? Or, do I put up with this or do I? I don't think that's going to happen. It'll be natural. You'll find yourself one day taking less or forgetting it or whatever. And so you don't have to fret about it at all. That's what came up for me. Thank you.
Yeah, and
what I expressed to you, Johanna, is yeah, I did forget to take it, and it was okay. But then I started driving, and I had these nervous pains from, what the medication would have blocked was these nerves, and so I was acutely aware of what the medication was doing for me, and so yeah, I did forget it. But
so perhaps it is like a first opening for you. So just take it very gently.
Yeah.
And I would add to that, just like you said, Megan, it's not a big deal either way, because let's take this to an extreme, which is the Course says in many different ways that the body is not real, right? And what we use to sustain our body is food and breathing. So those would be forms of magic too. So we are not going to stop eating. While it'll be amazing and beautiful if you can just drop some of that medication, very few of us will stop eating, and definitely hardly any one of us will stop breathing unless we have other plans. Maggie?
Yeah, thank you for the discussion. This is a good one, just in terms of, I know there's a lot of people that can relate and a lot of people that have questions like this. Just kind of listening and thinking about what Johanna said, I just thought I would share an example that I have noticed this happen for myself with things. If I've had any magic that I am using that I have any question for myself about at all, which typically is medications, if I am doing that, I've let myself continue to use the magic while basically just asking spirit to go ahead and change my mind about it if that is what's helpful for me, and not trying to then control it one way or the other. I don't know what's best. I really don't. And something in me is saying, oh, you shouldn't take that thing anymore, or this makes you feel this way. If you don't take it, this happens. If you do take it, this happens. I actually right now I'm going to have a parallel situation, just in terms of I have a medication. I do need to decide if I'm taking it or not. And there's an effect either way, and neither one of them is ideal. So with those types of things, I do tend to try to step back from my little ego self trying to decide. The clue that it's my little ego self trying to decide is that it feels urgent or frantic or stressful in some way or another. But if I let myself continue to use whatever the thing is, and even as I do it, say to spirit, go ahead and change my mind about this if that is helpful for me, help me see it differently, whatever is best. There have been things where, just like Johanna kind of mentioned, I haven't necessarily just forgotten to take a thing, but I have noticed my mind shift about a thing, and I start to just feel a little bit different, maybe as I go to take it, or I feel a little bit different about the effect that it is having, or I have some insight or some inspiration about it. And I even have had moments where I have felt very clearly, it is good for you to be eating this thing right now. And then that changes at some point, it goes away. So just as an example, I guess, of what I think Johanna was describing, I have had that happen. And I think, again, the knowing, right, that comes from spirit, it's calm, it's that calm, still voice. And it might just be, okay, yes, I'm not going to take that anymore. And there's no frantic trying to figure it out anymore.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, like also reminds me of the essential line from the Course that says, I do not know what this is for. And so it could mean that taking the medication is leading me directly to the path I need to be on according to the Holy Spirit and according to the grand plan that we cannot easily come to grips with. Peter.
Yeah, I just want to share one more thing. We did have a really good discussion about magic last week, and the thing that comes to mind for me now, which I don't know what was said in that Zoom or not, but the way I read the Course's discussion of magic is the invitation to stop giving our power away to something outside of us and giving that a dominion or authority over us. And it could be medication, but it could also be another person. It could be, it could be food. In the ultimate sense, if there is nothing outside my own mind, then if I'm giving my power to an illusory, whatever it is, medication or something else, I'm keeping myself stuck in the illusion, as opposed to taking, this is the whole shift in perception. This is the atonement. I am cause and not effect. And as long as I continue to give my power away to things outside of me, I'm reinforcing this idea that I'm at the effect of the illusion, not the cause of it. So, well, we can really get into it, but that's kind of what just came up for me on that. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Megan?
One of the nice things that happened was that I remembered the course when I was in the car and had not taken the medication. And I started doing deep breathing because I realized that I was with God, God was with me, and that that if I told a child to calm down, what would I tell the child to do? Take some deep breaths, and also talk myself. I was like, before you got in the car, you didn't think you were going to run into anybody. And when you get out of the car, you won't think you're going to run into anybody. Why are you in the car thinking you're going to run into somebody? It is just a temporary feeling. So I just deep breath, and then I looked, let God help me. And I was constantly reminded, I know nothing. It's like in the car, I'm going, I don't know anything that I'm hearing now or thinking now or feeling now. I have no idea of any of it, whether it means anything or not, but I'm going to allow, God to work through me. So I think that just helped me just do some deep breathing. And then when I got home, I was so grateful. I was just so grateful for getting home, for the entire experience, to be able to look back on it. And then to really just have, the forgetting and then the going through it was just a really lovely experience, even though it was really difficult during the middle of it.
As you were sharing that, Megan, I started to breathe more deeply and was affected immediately. In fact, I was really inspired by your words. So why don't we all do some, maybe 2 or 3 deeper diaphragmatic breaths. And as we do that, be extremely grateful for what is happening right now. Thank you, Father. Thank you, brothers and sisters, for making this possible. We are so grateful for this amazing opportunity. Where else would we like to go today? Maybe the next paragraph, or okay, let's do that. Let's read through the next paragraph, which is, I'm going to go ahead and read it. This is the only way in which you can take your rightful place among the saviors of the world. This is the only way in which you can say and mean, my only function is the one God gave me. This is the only way in which you can find peace of mind. I'm going to go ahead and read a couple of other snippets from this lesson, which are really prayers, which I think might be a great way to close this session. So I'm not sharing, but just reading through some of the rest of the lesson. as we, and it's talking about the exercise on how we might sit regularly through the day, closing our eyes and sometimes opening them, and just pausing to consider the thoughts that are running through our mind. So here it says in paragraph 5, this thought reflects a goal that is preventing me from accepting my only function. So just becoming cognizant of these thoughts is a useful thing to do. And then as we become more and more capable and good at doing that examination of our thoughts, we tend to reach this more stable, peaceful state of mind. And it goes on to say, on this clean slate, let my true function be written for me. So, dear God, on this clean slate, let my true function be written for me. My only function, it continues later on, my only function is the one God gave me. I want no other, and I have no other. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Father. Thank you for this holy time. We are privileged kids indeed. Johanna, you may stop the recording.